Hey friends, we are back with another video for you. We've put together a few more spring and Easter DIYs. We are pretty excited. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. This little sign was originally, I believe, from Hobby Lobby. I got it from the thrift store. It was a fall. I actually picked up a couple of them just to use as blanks. So I'm starting out just painting it with a good couple of white coats. That's just the Rust-Oleum chalk paint that I'm using. And after I get that dried up, I'm going to apply, first of all, a sheet of the decoupage paper that I have been using. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I usually get decoupage paper from either Zazzle or Sonnet's Garden and Blooms. She's on YouTube and has a store. I am using a DIY's liquid patina to apply this. It's similar to a Mod Podge. It is just a little bit thinner, so it's not as sticky, doesn't crinkle as much. I chose some transfers that I picked up from Amazon. I was actually last year, and I'm just kind of trying to use them all up this year. I'm getting through quite a few of them, and transfers, if you haven't used them yet, start using them because they take just the simplest project and make it so beautiful, and it is so simple and easy. Some are pretty inexpensive too. You get a lot of them for a lot of bang for your buck, I guess I'll say. So I got the decoupage paper applied. I let it dry and I'm getting rid of those edges. See that little handy dandy sander thingy I'm using? That came from Temu. And I have been loving it and making a lot of good use out of it, by the way. So after I get all of those edges tidied up, I apply another coat of sealer over the top. That's just the same liquid patina. And I just apply that to make sure everything is good. And I use my fingers just to smooth out any of those little wrinkles and make sure the edges aren't lifting, which that one was. So I just applied a little bit more here, there, and everywhere. Just want to make sure it doesn't start lifting after it dries. At this point, I am ready for the transfer, and I chose this really beautiful, it looks like spring to me, and it says, "Be the light." And I think it is just simple and beautiful, and it transforms this piece like paint can't, and even a Cricut decal can't. They do provide these little sticks to apply them with. You could use anything really. When I can't find one, I'll pull out a credit card or just an old gift card or my scraper, my Cricut tool, you name it. Whatever you can get your hands on, it'll work. You just little by little go through the whole thing and you can see it lift off. And then they recommend you burnish these transfers. You just use the sheet that comes off after you apply it and just rub it on there and that burnishes it in. I am just using that sander again just to kind of just tidy everything up once again. But that's how it turned out, and it's just so beautiful and light, and we love it. This candlestick, I think it's a candlestick. It came half painted. Somebody already did a little bit of the work for me. Again, this was from the thrift store. Also, I believe it was originally from Hobby Lobby at one time. And somebody, it looks like they started a project and just never finished it, but that's okay because I'm just adding more white to it anyhow. And this is going to be used for now as like a little bird's nest. I'm not going to glue anything onto it just in case I want to swap it out and use it for something else later, which I probably will. I did buy these birds actually from Hobby Lobby. They are ceramic and they have a lot of beautiful details in their wings and their little tail and beak, and they're so cute and very inexpensive because all the spring stuff was on sale, of course. And this is the milk paint that I have told you all about. And I just give that little bird a coat of that milk paint. And the milk paint can be wet distressed, which is what I'm doing here. I'm just getting a wet or damp paper towel or baby wipe, and I'm doing kind of a combination of both just to get that crackle finish in that milk paint. So I did the bird, one bird in the milk paint, the candlestick in the milk paint, and then I did do another bird in a very light pink. And all of them turned out really, really pretty. And I'm just doing the same thing to the bird, getting it a little bit just stressed down so you see some of that white come through and some of those, it brings out a lot of those details on the bird's wings and feathers and all throughout its little body. And I'm going to grab some Spanish moss. Oh, well, first, I forgot. I used this oil wax. It's a dark wax to again bring out even more of those ridges and details, and it almost is oily. I guess it is an oil wax. So you just use a little bit, and I just kind of dabbed some on, wiped it back, got some more on till I got really the look that I want. This is also, I want to say it's a DIY product, might be Sweet Pickins. I'll have to look and I'll put it in the description box, of course. But this came from Jamie Ray Vintage. She has a local shop and she also has an online shop. So this is where I start playing around with the Spanish moss, a couple of those painted eggs that I have, a couple of different birds. I couldn't really decide exactly how I wanted to set it up and how it was going to fit best. As I said, I didn't want to glue anything down, so I was just doing my best to see what was going to sit nicely in our little bird's nest. And in the end, I go with one of the bigger birds. That little one there is also from Timu, and it was gold originally. I don't know if you'll see that in this video, but I did paint her that same milk paint. I mixed up some of that milk paint and I wasn't going to waste it. It wasn't happening. I was going to use every drop of it. Plus, it's beautiful and I love the color, especially right now with this season and all the decor that I've been doing. It just flows so beautifully with everything else. And so I do display all the birds in one area or another on tier trays or just on shelves, but in the end, I go with one of these bigger birds to set on top of that nest. And I got my little girl there helping me. She's interested. And in the end, we did decide that this is how we liked it best. And it is just a fun little bird's nest candlestick little shelf sitter. And here's just a picture of it, little video to kind of try to show you the detail and what we got out of that base coat of white, milk paint, and then the oil wax. And there's both the birds. There's a little pink one on top and next to it, just so you can kind of gather the difference. Now, these are the little eggs that I used in many different projects. They came from Amazon. They are wooden and they have a flat bottom, so they stand up. They're a little bit smaller than I was expecting them to be when I ordered them, but I ended up being able to make it work. I kept some of them the plain wood grain, and I painted some in the apothecary color. I pulled out these stamps. These are an IOD product. They are called Letter Press, I believe. And this is a really nice set if you're ever interested in buying letters because they are small enough to do little projects with, and they come with 3 different styles or fonts. Now, they do recommend when you're using a stamp for the first time that you scuff it up just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit with a sheet of sandpaper. So that was what I was doing there because I hadn't used these ones yet. Now I'm going to stamp spring on one set and Easter on the other. And I'm just kind of sandwiching the little eggs in between just to keep them steady while I apply those stamps. That ink again is the same ink I've been using, the black from IOD. It is permanent. I do nick one of them and where I didn't want the ink to go, and try as I might, it did not come off. So there's that. I'm just cleaning each little stamp as I go because otherwise they get stuck in a pile and I forget about them, and then I end up having to like really clean them with like soap and water. But if you do it right away, just wipe them off as you go, then you can just put them right back in their little container and be done with them until the next time. So this Apothecary is a DIY paint as well. It's a little bit greener than the milk paint I was using, but it's also still just a beautiful spring color. It's a beautiful anytime color, and I have used a lot of that in my house as well. So the plain eggs, I decided to go with spring, and the Apothecary, you see that's where I got the little eye, and that never did really come off all the way. But you can't hardly really even notice it. Only probably I and you guys, because I have pointed it out to you, will notice it. So the little Apothecary eggs I did Easter on, and they just end up setting on a shelf and look really, really cute. These I decided to do something else with. I grabbed my drill, kind of a very thin drill bit, and this wasn't like the easiest thing for me because I don't know, I'm not that good at the drill, and these eggs are quite small. You'll see a band-aid on my finger later on in this video, and this would be why. So I put these little holes in the top, and then I cut up these tiny little flowers, and I could not tell you where I got them. Probably Hobby Lobby, because I've had them for a long time. They were just kind of some leftover stems that I've had. But they're so tiny and delicate, I thought they would just look so cute poking up out of these little eggs. So I used the wire cutters just to cut off just a little stem for each letter. And this is probably one of the favorite things that I did um, in this project for me. I absolutely love it, even with the finger injury and all. But they look cute on my tier tray. They look cute on a shelf. They are just so adorable. And again, one of my favorite things. And I didn't glue the stems in, so those could be changed out if I wanted to. All right, these little eggs are plastic see, there's my Band-Aid. These were much easier to drill into. They are plastic. They came from Walmart or Hobby Lobby. I don't remember. I saw them at both. They were a little slick, so the drill did slide here and there, but it was easier to drill them in that little tray. I cut out some decals from my Cricut just on some black vinyl. I just did like random Easter words. And most of these I did not show me weeding because everybody's seen everybody weed a million times. But I left this part in because it shows like how hard I was struggling. And I weed almost every day, probably. So it's not that I don't know how to do it, but I was getting the letters stuck to the excess vinyl. I lost like one of them. This is a very thin font, but it is a font that I use all the time. So it wasn't that I didn't know it was going to be a little bit tricky. So there goes my U, my one N, and my Y. So I go digging. I wasn't about to try to recut this if I didn't have to. So I find them. Luckily, I didn't completely destroy them, but this whole decal did need quite a bit of surgery. But just wanted to show you it can be fixed if you mess something up. Don't always be so quick just to, oh, toss it and throw it away and recut, which believe me, I have ended up having to recut anyways, even after spending all the time to try to fix it. So who knows what the better option is. But in this case, I was able to fix it up, and you'd not be none the wiser that I had to go through all that. I did have to use a piece of transfer tape for each one. And the reason is I usually try to reuse my transfer tape, but the reason for that is at this rounded egg surface. You have to cut little relief strips in the vinyl to get the decal, I mean, in the transfer tape to get the decal, the vinyl to lay properly. So I could not reuse the transfer tape, but these were all very small, so I don't feel too bad about having to use a piece for each one. And I believe I did 5 of these, maybe 6. And then I got some twine and a needle. This was also a pain. I got the biggest needle I could find. Now, I don't sew, so I don't have a large stash of needles. I threaded the twine through it, and I was wanting to push the needle through each hole, which ideally sounds very simple. Well, this needle was not long enough, so I used, you name it, just about every little grabber tool I could find. Oddly enough, though, I did not have any tweezers. That would have, I did look, but I couldn't find any. I didn't look that hard, but I never did find any. So this one was the most difficult, but each one of them was a little bit tricky. Once it's through, it's fine. It's just getting that little point to come through at the other end. I grabbed some beads. The little beads in the middle, the colored ones, I had already painted for another project. So, and I just always save extra beads. And they worked perfectly for this little project. So I did a couple of small beads, the big one in the middle, and I did that for each little egg. I tied some tassels on the end, and I think this is adorable. I love it. It's just sitting up there on my shelf with all the other things that we've been making, and it is so cute. This wood sign did come from Hobby Lobby. I actually did purchase that one. Hobby Lobby does a pretty good 40% off every other week or so to get wood signs. I cut some vinyl. This says hello. I used a gray color on this one. And so I'm weeding these out, and then I cut some tulips to say spring. I picked like this corally color. Now I set this up so that my alignment would be like simple and perfect, but I got distracted and kind of forgot that that was like my plan of why I set it up this way. I did it to make it easier for myself, but in the end, it made it harder for myself because I messed it up. But this was just a very, very simple project, no matter how you do it. I had just applied that little hello first in the middle, kind of measured that part out. Had I done a better job with measuring, also, I would have saved myself a little bit of grief, but it did work out. It just is a little bit off. The measurements weren't perfect, and the alignment trick that I used didn't work out for me. But I just used a design right off of Cricut Design Space. So if you have access to that, it's free. I didn't pay for anything other than, you do pay monthly for Cricut Design Access. But that is where I got this. So I did not create this design, and it was just pretty close to what I was going to make anyhow, and this saved me from having to do the design work. So why not use it? And it's just as cute. All of these vinyls are from Amazon. I don't remember the brand. I'd have to look, but I will link them. Just kind of this minty green, a really pretty purple, and that coral pink color. And this is where I kind of start to figure out, uh-oh, I did this really wrong. So at this point, I'm like, all right, forget it. I'll just try to line them up the best that I can and get them on here. And I did have to pull off the eye. Luckily, it hadn't fully adhered, so it wasn't too bad to pull off. I didn't tear it or anything. Thank goodness for that. It did come off. And I just kind of match up the little tops of those tulip stems, or tulip, whatever those are called, the flower part of it. And this is a lot of fun. My daughter wanted to make this. She said we need a little bit more colors. So we did a few more colors. And this is sitting in our family room with everything else. And just really easy. Can't get much easier than that. And cheap. You know, the sign itself was probably like $3, and then the vinyl was just pennies because we already had the vinyl and didn't require using a whole lot of it. So there it is. Looking very cute, very fun, and we are happy with it. The last project that we did was kind of a last minute. We found this candle. I had bought it for something else. It's one of those Dollar Tree candles. And since I already had the vinyl out, I just pulled up a little bunny in Design Space again and just cut out a whole bunch of them. And I just randomly stuck them on here. But it's so cute. I love the little bunny butts and the little tails that the pink shows through. And this is, can't really even call it a DIY, I guess, but it definitely adds some fun little Easter flair to the rest of the decor. And this anybody could do, even if you didn't have a Cricut. You could just get some stickers. You grab one of those Dollar Tree candles, and there you have it. It is done and complete. We had a lot of fun this week creating. We hope that you enjoy some of these projects. We hope that you continue to join us and keep watching. We are having a lot of fun as a family getting this done, taking this new adventure, learning a lot as we go. A lot of this stuff, you know what, you can go out, you can buy it at Hobby Lobby, you can go to Joann's, you could go to any store, TJ Maxx. But it makes a difference when it's something you made on your own. There's just something different about it. Thanks again, friends. Y'all have a great week and stay safe. We will see you next time.
Thanks for watching Molly Cool Creations. Click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe and press the bell. Bye. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to watch every single video we make.